Well, hello and welcome back to another video. The reason I'm laughing is I think I've lost count. This is take 3 or take 4 of this particular effort in doing a video. I'm trying a new camera. Well, it's not a new camera, as you know. Much like my gardening, this whole YouTube thing is done on a budget. And you might see from my other main channel, I enjoy having a go at repairing things. And I bought a new camera that had got a bit of a fault on, which I thought I knew that I could cure. And it seems as I have put this right. This camera was quite an expensive camera a number of years ago. It's getting on in, you know, it's not a particularly new model, but it was a very well thought of camera. So after I'd managed to fix the fault, because I bought it virtually for next to nothing, I thought, right, I'll make a video of it. Well, it's been very windy here today, as I often start my videos by saying, you know, it's very windy here, as it often is. But I think the first thing that happened was I got the sound level was so loud and distorted, it was hideous. The second time I started all this, I genuinely forgot to put the camera on, because it's a little bit different to the older camera that I'd been using, and then it got so windy, it actually blew the tripod over, but the camera wasn't damaged, I have to say. So this is the 4th attempt. So anyway, it's good to be back, and thank you all for watching. And I'm in the midst of my silly season of planting all my annual plants out. I've really stopped today because it's been so windy, and I won't plant plants out in the wind. They get so, you've got to remember, these plants have been grown the majority of their life in a sheltered greenhouse. I have been standing them out now in the daytime to harden them off, as we call it. But the wind bruises young foliage, and in a gale like we had this afternoon, it has just dropped a little bit now. It's just not worth trying to set plants out, and we've had 1 or 2 heavy showers, but our ground is so dry here. So I was doing my tubs, and the whole purpose of this video was, when I first started this, I'd got 2 tubs that had still got bulbs left in them. And I was talking to a neighbour of mine who lives close by, and she saw me moving my tubs around on the front, and she said, do you save your bulbs out of your tubs? I said, oh yes, of course I do. She said, oh, I just usually tip the whole lot in the green bin. You know, we have a green collection, garden waste collection, wheelie bin. And I said, oh, that's a terrible shame. You know, why on earth do you do that? I said, you know, what I normally do with bulbs that have been in tubs, and any bulbs that I have to move that are in the way of garden beds, because I set a lot of annuals out, I very often move bulbs as well in the garden. And obviously I give them as long as I can. First of all, after they've finished flowering, I give them some foliar liquid feed and keep them well watered. You're trying to bulk the bulb up for next year. Then let as much of the foliage die down as you can. These had tulips in, and the foliage was very, very dead. And then what I do is lift the bulbs up, break the foliage off, particularly if it's limp and dead anyway. You want to cut that off. And then here's some daffodils that came out of another tub that I'd got round the front, and what I do is then basically just air dry them. If it does rain, you want to keep them, you know, in a shed, in a greenhouse, or just cover them up. You don't really want to get them wet at this point, I find. And I shall dry them off, and then when the greenhouse is empty of the annual plants, I make a nice, they're raised up, underneath the staging, which is very airy. You know, I have the door open in the greenhouse virtually the whole summer, and so the air will flow round, and then I just dry them off in the greenhouse. And you want to just keep sorting through them. I wouldn't have them quite as in the final, you know, when I finally put them in a tray, I would have them not as high as this and more spread out, because you want to go through them in the summer just to see that you've got no squishy ones. Sometimes they do go a bit bad and you want to take those out as quickly as possible. But I found, you know, drying the bulbs out like this and keeping them in an airy, well ventilated greenhouse, not in the full sun, they are, as I say, below the staging, but they're off the ground. I must get about a good 80% flowering the next year. When I set these in the autumn time, what bulbs have been in my tubs and been on the front garden come round to the back garden for the next year, and I think 80% flower the next year. So it's well worth just taking a bit of time and the trouble if you do have to dig bulbs up. And I find this drying out, you know, works for me. Whatever works for you. If it works, keep doing what you're doing. But I've always found this system seems to work very well for me, and that's how I get a good you know, flowering percentage the next year. Well, I thought I'd come and show the greenhouse one last time. As you can see, plants have really done well. They've really grown. Down there we've got the dahlias from seed. By the little heater there, everything is basically ready to go off. Normally I've been having this stuff out in the daytime to harden it off. I stand it just on the path and on the lawn. There's some African marigolds. They're the vanilla ice ones. They have nice white flowers. I've still been pricking some stuff out. This lobelia got very seed tray bound, but it'll be okay. I've only pricked that out the last couple of days because, I mean, it was just like cress. I've got some more lobelia in my little Aldi greenhouse there, and just some antirrhinums, some marigolds, and so it's all really in the begonias that are growing superbly, and there's some more petunias there, and rudbeckias down there, and a sea of geraniums. But you know, it's all ready to go out now, and obviously this takes an awful long while, you know, to set it all out, but that's the joy of gardening. And this time of the year your greenhouse is never big enough. I think if I'd got a double-sized greenhouse you could still probably fill it. And I was working it all out really with the heating, with a little bit of paraffin I bought. I had the compost left over from last year, so that isn't included in the price. But with the seeds and the heating, I reckon that all these plants in this greenhouse have cost me about £60, which probably to go and buy them in a garden centre is a lot cheaper. I know, and here's the big, you know, I know, if you like, that doesn't take into account my time and the effort and the commitment. You've got to be here every day. They want watering every day. They want looking after. You've got to be here to put the heater on, take the heater off, you know, early on when you're germinating the seeds. So it's a lot of work, but I still enjoy it, and it's still lovely to grow plants from seed. I think it's very much a dying art. You know, it's so easy to order stuff online or go to a garden centre or go to a big you know, like a B&Q type shop, sell bedding plants, and just pick a few trays up there, whereas, you know, everything here you can see has been grown from seed. So yeah, so that's the greenhouse, and my next, you know, over the next few days is going to be to get the majority of this set out. Hopefully the last frost has gone, and so yeah, there we go. The summer house is virtually finished. I'm really delighted with it. There we go. I think I added it all up, and I think that the total cost on that was about £42 in the end. So I was delighted, you know, to build a structure like that for £42. And basically all that included was some nails, some roofing felt, and the muted clay Croupenol stain, that it's the colour that it's been stained. You wouldn't think it now, but I have pressure washed the little slabs, although looking at the birds, because they roost in this, some of the smaller birds roost in this holly tree, and the mess now is, I'm back to square one. But and it's often forgotten that holly trees in the spring and early summer do lose an awful lot of their leaves. They are an evergreen tree, so obviously don't lose any leaves in the autumn and winter, but this time of the year they almost shed, you know, probably, I'm not going to say a quarter of their leaves, but an awful lot of their leaves drop off. So they can be a bit of a nightmare, you know, because they're prickly, and you've got to keep sweeping them up every day, basically. So yeah, I've pressure washed this and cleaned it all up, but it could do with going over again, really. And I cleaned all the blue bricks. If you're wondering about the weight of the soil behind those blue bricks, what we call like, it's a soldier course, a blue brick on its edge. There is a concrete block behind that to support the soil. The blue brick is just a face, just, you know, it looks better than a concrete block. So yeah, the summer house is done, and apart from very odd little bits to do on it, I even cleaned my old railway lamp up. That's a London North Eastern railway lamp. And it comes off it should really be painted red, but red doesn't look very attractive in the garden. It comes off a level crossing gate somewhere in the London and North Eastern Railway region. I was thinking about probably putting some kind of solar light in there so it lights up at night. It's got to be the brick pier, the two bricks it's on have got to be mortared in. They're just temporary standing on there at the moment. And yeah, we've got a little seat there, which is a temporary affair until I find something a bit better, but it's nice to come and sit here. There's Norman the gnome, who lives here now, and my niece said Norman the gnome must live in the summer house, so there he goes, Norman the gnome is in the summer house. We've even got a bit of art in here. These are British Rail carriage prints that used to be in British Rail carriages. And I bought a lot of these very cheaply many years ago, so I thought we'd have a bit of art in the summer house. And there's another old carriage print, that one is of Suffolk. Quite apt really, as I look out down there, and the view is of the old railway line. If we zoom in, can we zoom in with this camera? As you see, I'm not used to this camera at all. So there we go, there is the old, one of the old bridges across the cattle crossing. The cattle used to walk under that, and that's the old railway line there. So as always, thanks ever so much for watching. Sorry this video is a bit of a mishmash of things. As I say, it was meant to be me preparing these tubs and digging the bulbs up out the tubs, but I did that twice. And you know, I'm not going to stick the bulbs back in there and try for a third, or was it a fourth time. Hopefully, you know, you're going to see this video this time, so there will be some sound, there'll be some vision, and the camera hasn't blown over yet, thank goodness. So as always, thanks ever so much for watching anyway, and it's you know, nice to do these little update videos. If you're wondering what I'm going to set in these tubs, there's a nice tray of homegrown petunias, and I might just put petunias en masse in them, or some petunias with some Crystal Palace lobelia, which is the darker foliage with a little blue flower, that lobelia. So obviously these tubs are quite small, and they go on piers by our garage door, so you know, you can't get too much in these anyway, but I might just go and fill them with petunias, because if my saying is right, and as the oak tree came out before the ash tree, and we're going to have a very dry summer, and at the moment here our ground is really bone dry. We've had 1 or 2 showers the last couple of days, but it's not been even half enough to wet the soil properly. And if we have a dry summer, petunias do really well. I always remember thinking back to that glorious hot summer we had in the UK in 1976, for anyone old enough to remember that. And I certainly can. In early June, the weather set in hot and warm, and it was unbroken, clear blue sky, day after day after day, right through June, July, and right until the very end of August when the weather broke. And obviously we had a huge drought as well. The country started running out of water because it was so hot and dry. And one of the few plants that did well in those conditions was petunias, because obviously petunias hate, wet to damage their flowers. The flowers go all blue and go mouldy pretty quickly, so they want lots and lots of sun. And as long as you keep them watered, they won't mind if it doesn't rain at all, as long as they're kept in, moist every day. So there we go. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and do think about subscribing. It does, so YouTube keep telling me it does help. It does help these smaller channels, and I thank you to everyone that has. And I hope your garden is growing well, and wherever you are in the world, good gardening and my best wishes, and I'll see you very soon in another video. Until then, bye for now.